All right, folks, today we're going to be talking about Zelda's 40th anniversary and specifically dealing with some of the disappointment I have seen online that it kind of came and went. And well, technically, I mentioned this, I don't know, a week or two ago, that I expected Nintendo to do absolutely nothing this last week for Zelda's 40th beyond possibly some minor updates on Nintendo Today, which they did actually do. They had like a neat little animation. If you checked Nintendo Today yesterday, it's not there anymore today because we're not yesterday anymore. But they had a neat little animation and they had like a hey, this day in gaming history sort of post where they showed two different games, but one of them was obviously The Legend of Zelda for the Famicom Disk System in Japan, because that's what released back on February 21st, 1986. Now, what's really interesting, of course, is the expectation that people continue to have for Nintendo to do something this week, basically, despite the fact that they don't ever do anything, not truly anyways, in February or literally like the week of the Zelda anniversary. They've never done anything before, but yet the expectation comes up every 5 years that Nintendo's going to do something because people remember Nintendo doing things for prior anniversaries. But for some reason, we forget that timeline in our head where Nintendo hasn't actually celebrated Zelda's 40th on or around Zelda's 40th or 35th or 30th or 25th, or in the case of the 20th, they didn't even celebrate the 20th at all. So yeah, I think it's really interesting that this expectation grows because Nintendo does tend to do things for Mario every 5 years. And yeah, Pokemon does a decent job celebrating every 5 years as well. So people have this expectation that Nintendo is going to do this for The Legend of Zelda. And reality is Zelda's 40th anniversary celebration, if there is one, and there's not even a guarantee there will be, we'll get into that in a moment, but if there is one, and I do think one is quite likely for one specific reason, it's going to be later this year, likely from June and onwards. Sometimes Nintendo has actually waited all the way till September to announce those plans, which I do think is a possibility they could wait that long because they may want to extend the anniversary through the Zelda movie release. Now, how do we get to this? Well, first off, we need to go look at the prior ones after I remind you guys that, hey, I am looking to get to 162,000 subscribers. So if you're enjoying this video, I would appreciate if you would subscribe to the channel. And let's go ahead and dive in. Now, first, we're going to go look at the very first anniversary Nintendo ever celebrated for The Legend of Zelda, and that's the 25th. Because yes, believe it or not, they didn't really celebrate the 20th. There was a game that came out that was Twilight Princess, but that was a launch game for Wii, and they were really focused on advertising the Wii. They weren't really focused on celebrating anniversaries at that time. So let's go ahead and jump forward 5 years to the first time Nintendo did anything major, and that was the 25th anniversary. Now, technically, this very first anniversary, they did mention something before June. They mentioned it was the anniversary. That was it. They actually dropped a logo at the Game Developers Conference, which is, by the way, not in February, so they still didn't announce anything around the Zelda 40th anniversary, and all they did was mention it is the 25th anniversary and gave us a logo, but no actual announcements, nothing else. In fact, we had to wait all the way until June. That's right. You can see here, this was the Zelda 25th celebration they had going on June 7th, 2011. And it's honestly just like they're at E3. They do this combo thing. They announced some Zelda concert series and all this sort of stuff. This was Nintendo celebrating the 25th anniversary. And I know it's a little laggy, but look, guys, this is what Nintendo did and happened in June of 2011. As you can tell, that is not February 21st. That is not February at all. So they announced quite a bit for the 25th anniversary, and they just didn't actually do it on the 25th. Now, then we fast forward 5 years and we get to the 30th anniversary. And when did Nintendo first talk about this? I mean, at least at the prior one, Nintendo bare minimum, at least at the Game Developers Conference, which is not in February, mentioned the 25th anniversary even exists. They didn't do that for the 30th. They didn't even do it at the Game Developers Conference. They made us wait yet again all the way until September. Here's good old Reggie Fils-Aimé talking about the 30th anniversary, and they waited until September 1st. I shit you not. They waited that long to talk about it. So we're already at that point, like 7 months removed from the actual anniversary before they decided to actually talk about it, and they did it at the September Nintendo Direct. They went into all the stuff. They announced some things. They announced some amiibos and other things. Point is, they waited and waited and waited until September. This is why I say June or September seems to be when Nintendo does this stuff. And beyond all of that, we obviously have the 35th anniversary. Now, some people get confused with the 35th because, yes, at the February Nintendo Direct, yes, they had a general one that year, they did announce Skyward Sword HD. You know what they didn't announce? The 40th anniversary of Zelda, or I guess we're talking about the 35th here. So they didn't announce the 35th anniversary. They didn't mention it at all. Kind of crazy. So when did they actually bring up the 35th anniversary? Oh, right here at E3, you know, they talked about it here, 2021, the final E3 there ever was, in June of 2021. And here's Aonuma revealing what they're doing for the 35th. The Game & Watch. It was probably one of the most disappointing anniversaries for Zelda ever because this was the only thing that was actually announced for the 35th anniversary. He even clarified in an interview at E3 that Skyward Sword HD was not part of the 35th anniversary. What? Skyward Sword HD released after this. So it made no sense that it wouldn't be part of the 35th anniversary, and many Zelda fans consider Skyward Sword HD as part of the 35th anniversary, but Nintendo did not consider it part of the 35th. Very weird, but regardless, they didn't even bring up the anniversary until E3 in June. Now, what's very interesting is this is the first year that a Zelda anniversary is happening where E3 doesn't exist. So you can see out of the 3 they chose to celebrate, 2 of them happened at E3, 1 of them happened at a September Direct, but E3 doesn't exist anymore. And yet, here we are, the day after the anniversary happened, and Nintendo didn't announce anything for it. Now, why is this the case? Like, just from a logical perspective, why are they not celebrating Zelda's anniversary around Zelda's actual anniversary? The reason is because they're still celebrating Mario's 40th, because Mario's 40th is in September of the year prior, and they want those celebrations to go on for 6 to 8 months. And when you do that, the next logical time to go on to another anniversary is going to be Zelda, and that's going to be summer of the following year. And yeah, Pokemon as well. Pokemon is always celebrating its anniversary in the month of February. They do not change. They are very consistent. Whatever day February 27th is, that's the day they're doing Pokemon stuff. And that's because that's the anniversary for Pokemon. So they have the Pokemon anniversary happening all the time in February. You have the Mario anniversary still spilling it over through February. So yeah, this is why Nintendo waits and waits and waits and doesn't do anything till June or later. So there really shouldn't have been any expectations for Nintendo to do anything to begin with. And I'm going to get into how it's possible Nintendo does nothing for the 40th at all. And we learned this actually from the Kit and Krista podcast because they were around for some of these anniversaries and these decisions at Nintendo. And we're just going to look at some quotes here. Normally I would show the video clip, but I'm kind of in a time crunch today, so we're just going to grab the quotes here off the Genki Twitter post here. And it says, former Nintendo employees Kit and Krista say Nintendo's approach to anniversaries is very different than the Pokemon Company. Nintendo's approach to anniversaries is always like, if it so happens that a game is launching the same year as an anniversary, sure, we'll do a thing. We'll tie it to it, whatever, which I find really funny because they actually intentionally stated Skyward Sword HD was not part of the anniversary. That was an obvious addition they could have thrown in, and they chose not to. Very weird. Anyways, getting back to this quote. But Pokemon is truly the other way around, where they do like a lot of cultural things to celebrate anniversaries. We saw it with the 25th anniversary. We're seeing it play out in real time with the 30th anniversary. Versus a Nintendo where they're like, oh yeah, if a game happens to launch, we'll slot it into this anniversary, but never the other way around. We would never take a cultural approach to any Nintendo thing. Internally, they would just never do that. So what they're basically saying here is Nintendo wouldn't plan to have, say, an Ocarina of Time remake come out this year specifically because it's the Zelda anniversary. If a game comes out this year, it's because it just happened to line up, not because they planned for it. That is Nintendo's approach, and Nintendo's traditionally only celebrated 2 anniversaries, really. Mario and Zelda. I know we want them to celebrate more than that. You can throw Pokemon in there, but that's the Pokemon Company doing that. Nintendo themselves is pretty much Mario and Zelda, and we don't really celebrate anything else. So I do think Nintendo's going to do something for Zelda's 40th, but whatever they're doing, it just happened to line up with this year. They're not going to do anything specifically for this year. And this explains a lot of the speculation we've had in the past about how, hey, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess HD, that could come out. Yeah, we can speculate away for all the things that could come out on the 40th, but reality is Nintendo's not planning for anything specifically to come out. It just so happens if development of things line up. As an example, the Zelda movie, they didn't plan the Zelda movie around the 40th anniversary, or it would come out before the end of this year or very early in 2027, but instead it's now been delayed actually to May, and I guarantee they're gonna try to tie that movie into the anniversary. And to do that, that means they might not even talk about the anniversary until September. So then you kind of get that 6 to 8 month extension, and that brings in to play the movie to kind of be the final thing as part of the anniversary. Not because they planned it that way, but because they can find a way to make that line up, just like they do with the Mario movie or the Mario anniversary. They didn't plan for the Mario movie, Super Mario Galaxy movie, to come out for Mario's 40th. It just so happens that, hey, it's in less than a year from when that anniversary happens, so let's put it in there. And technically, the Zelda movie is more than a year from the 40th anniversary of Zelda. However, Nintendo doesn't celebrate that until later in the year anyways, typically, so they can still line it up to be, hey, when we start the celebrations, it's still within a year of when we start those celebrations. That's what I think is going to happen. I think the movie is going to be considered part of those celebrations. They're going to use it as a marketing tactic. But you'll also notice things like we had a Zelda Lego set for Ocarina of Time announced in January. That was not announced with the 40th anniversary. It is not part of the 40th anniversary. So will there be like 40th anniversary Lego sets? Probably not. Will there be 40th anniversary games? We'll see. It's only if something happened to line up. Now, we haven't had a Zelda game outside of a spin-off last year since Echoes of Wisdom in 2024. And Zelda, in terms of even re-releases, remakes, remasters, has sort of become a bit annualized if you count spin-offs and obviously the remakes and remasters. And we haven't had a remaster since what? I'm trying to think back. Is it Skyward Sword HD? It's been a while. There was Link's Awakening that happened at one point. We've had Skyward Sword HD, some NSO drops, but like in general, I don't think we've had anything for a bit. Obviously, we had Tears of the Kingdom in 2023, and then obviously we went ahead with Echoes of Wisdom in 2024, and then we had Age of Imprisonment last year. So I would think that there's probably due for a remake or remaster this year, just based on the timeline of events. But that's only if the game's ready and only if it lined up. Now, we talked, of course, about how there is one little tiny piece of evidence, and that was Nintendo, who recently was right about Xenoblade, talking about a Zelda remake back in December. And when I say talking, just basically saying it's happening and then re-updating after Xenoblade that, oh, all in due time. All in due time. Some people take that to mean Ocarina of Time. We talked about this in our last video. If you guys want more details on that specifically, go watch that video. That is a video we put up on Friday. But what that really makes you think is that, okay, there must be something. And what could Nintendo do? Sure, they could bring back a concert series if they really want. Are they going to do that? I don't know. With the Zelda movie coming out, I'm kind of lean towards maybe not so much a concert series this time, maybe for the 50th. If you remember, the concert series began with the 25th. So I would say maybe every 25 years they plan to do something pretty big like that. So the 50th anniversary, that's probably around the time Nintendo will do some really, really cool stuff like that for Zelda. They'll probably have some cool stuff for Mario as well. But I do believe that the best case we have here is that there'll be a game that comes out and some merchandise probably as well for the 40th. And whatever that game is, could be anything. Obviously, we've been talking about Ocarina of Time remake for a while. I don't know if it's actually going to be ready this year. They could decide to show off 3D Zelda. However, if they're showing off the brand new 3D Zelda that's a couple years away, it's just because they were planning to do it anyways, because they do tend to tease that a couple years early. So if they are targeting 2028, they definitely could tease 3D Zelda this year. It's one of the few franchises they do tease a decent amount ahead of time. At least consistently. I mean, you think about it, Tears of the Kingdom was teased in 2019, and while obviously COVID's probably the reason it didn't come out for 4 years, I will note that I don't think it was planning to come out in 2020. It's probably supposed to be a 2021 game, and they teased it a couple years early. So that's what I'm saying. They tend to do this thing where they tease things. planning wise anyways, a couple years early for Zelda. So, and it hasn't seemed to hurt Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. So I can see them continuing that marketing strategy and saying, hey, Zelda's that one thing people want to know about it way ahead of time. So yeah, sure, if they were planning to do that already, they'll tie that into the 40th and tie in some whatever remake and remaster as well, and maybe some merch and stuff like that. So what that remake and remaster is going to be, obviously I hope it's Ocarina of Time remake, but it could be anything. Grezzo could be working hard on Oracle of Seasons, Oracle of Ages. We could be talking about a original Zelda coming back. A Link, A Link to the Past could come back. Maybe A Link Between Worlds is going to get ported over in the way that Link's Awakening did. And I mean, Link's Awakening was remade, so it'd be a remake. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, obviously, what happens. And really, just my faith in Nintendo deal and the accuracy of his sources is why I think there's probably a remake coming for the 40th, but only because it just happens to line up, not because it was planned. And again, when are you going to see that fresh Zelda 40th logo, not the fan-made ones based off the 35th logo? Yeah, that's June or later. That's the thing. Like, if nothing happens in June, don't panic, because I do think they might try to tie the movie in, which means they may wait till September. And yes, as I just showed earlier in this video, Nintendo has absolutely waited all the way till September to announce Zelda anniversaries before. So it's not even out of the norm. It's something they have done in the past. So that's kind of my take on this, guys. Let me know what you think down below. Obviously, we tried to celebrate it a little bit. We had a short go up for it. We had a post go up asking what your guys' favorite memory from playing the games. In fact, you can go down below in the video right now and let me know your favorite memory playing the Legend of Zelda franchise from any game, any period of your life. And more than that, we did obviously a live stream where we talked a bit about it as well, and we talked about it on the Nintendo Byte podcast last week. So we kind of did our thing, and now this is sort of that 40th anniversary follow-up to let people know, hey, I'm seeing this discourse online, I'm seeing the people kind of frustrated, and those people just might not be aware. I know some of you are, but everyone's not aware that we shouldn't have expected anything to begin with right now. Be more disappointed if we get to the September Direct and then nothing happens. At that point, they chose not to celebrate it, and that sucks. So we'll see what happens, folks. I am Nathaniel Rufflejans from Nintendo Prime, and I just want to note before we get out of here, how about the men's and women's hockey for the U.S., man? How about it, man? They both took home the gold against Canada. The men's U.S. hockey team was completely outmatched. Canada was significantly a better team. But the goalie, man, had the game of his life. Then the guy who gets the goal in OT had his teeth knocked out in the game. Yeah, that's the thing. You only see this kind of stuff in hockey, man. All right. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Congrats to the USA Olympians for all of them that competed, whether they won medals or not. And I will catch you guys in the next video.